We have the Urban Tree Act, which basically promotes the active tree canopy across the ACT and provides incentives for retaining trees and strict requirements for their removal. Sometimes this can be more of a hindrance if you want to remove a single tree. I found it can be quite strict, but I think ultimately this is a really good thing.
I was actually really feeling the weight of nature loss this week, and normally I feel like I'm, as a person, as an organisation, we're doing the best we can. But this week I heard about some mature native trees that got removed in Canberra, and they weren't meant to be removed, but I believe the arbiters sort of accidentally removed them in the process of the development. And I've actually found that really upsetting, and it did make me really emotional.
Developers often have resources, they have finances that are not available to the everyday person, and so they can just pay their way out of adhering to those regulations.
Because just the thought that these trees, over 200 years old, and once they're gone, they're gone. They're not growing back, and we can't just offset them or replace them.
Amazing tree. Wow. So this is...
You get to know a place, you notice different things through the seasons. Different things happen, different trees are flowering, different birds have moved in, and especially here in Canberra, we're probably the only capital city that gets a lot of the inland sort of woodland birds, and I just think they're spectacular.
Callum Brae is a really good example of cumulative impacts. So while the site is small, it actually contains trees that are important habitat for foraging for the swift parrot, and the swift parrot is a critically endangered bird. So they migrate from Tasmania every year, and they head up north, they head through Canberra. We're really lucky that we get them here, it's really special, but they need trees when they get here to be able to forage.
And they really rely on intact vegetation that is flowering at the right time, so they can move from patch to patch, and it's becoming more and more fragmented. And there are a few areas in Canberra that they have historically used that are under threat from development.
I've lived in Scullin for 10 years now and seen the number of birds and wildlife that use this little corner. And so when we saw that it was up for clearing, then the community rallied.
But it's a really difficult time for Canberra because we've got a growing population, and we're only just coming to the point of agreeing about how we make enough homes for all of those people and where we're going to put them.
So the more we say, oh, it's just a few trees, we'll chop these down, and the more we do that everywhere, it means that across the board, swift parrots aren't going to have anywhere for their habitat. So even small areas really make a significant impact.
But we have made progress, so it has been a useful process for the community to really push back on this ease of clearing trees for development and to show that the community cares.
I do have hope. I am really fortunate that I get to work with our environment community every day.
We need to build good quality homes, we need to build up more than we have been, and we need to make sure we first mark out all the precious areas of habitat and don't build there.